Hello world. There's a notable hole in my adventure game career, one I might not have mentioned before. I have never sat down and played a humongous entertainment game. I know, it's the company founded by Ron Gilbert of Maniac Mansion and Monkey Island fame. They were integral to the childhoods of many. This is practically blasphemy, and yet I've never done it. I'm not sure they were ever much of a thing over on these shores. I don't recall seeing them for sale when I was within the target age group, and now that I'm very much past that age group, I've never gone back to see what the fuss was about. I should do it one day. I've heard good things, it's just not happened yet is all. So why bring any of this up when I'm very obviously not talking about a humongous entertainment game? Well, today's subject reminds me a lot of those titles, and I don't know exactly why because, as stated, I've never played any of the games I'm comparing it to. You'll need to check with someone else to find out if the comparison is valid, but know that it's what I have in mind when I'm talking about this. This being Detective Gallo, developed by Footprints Games, a name I can only assume is designed to trip up my dumb mouth, and published by Adventure Productions. Well, there's a company name that doesn't fuck about. A Ron Seal job, as we say in my part of the world. Anyway, you step into the gummy shoes of Gallo, a private detective rooster. He is a detective and he is also a rooster. In fact, everyone with a speaking line is a burb of some sort. Is the humongous entertainment parallel making any more sense now? It's not just me, right? And aside from like one throwaway line, they don't draw any attention to it. That's just the world you live in now. Gallo is a hard-boiled noir detective with all the tropings. Mourning the loss of a soul very dear to him, lamenting the cruel hand that fate throws in his face, and finding solace with his beak in a bottle. Wait, how does that even work? When you first gain control, he's just been thrown out of a bar. I don't know if it hits everything on the PI trope checklist, but it must be pretty close. After rebuffing his love interest for what must be the 100th time, Gallo gets a call to action and despite presumably still being pished or pished adjacent, he heads to the crime scene. A murder scene of plants. Someone killed all the plants. See, the tongue has taken up residence in the cheek for this one. No one acts as if a world full of birds or the massacre of someone's greenhouse is completely beyond the pale. They all commit to the role. Any violence is cartoony, language stays distinctly non-harsh, no toilets, it's very 50s in that way. The highest age rating I could see this game getting is PG-13, and I'd be surprised if it went that high. In which case, I probably shouldn't have said fuck earlier, but I did far worse in my Mavis Beacon video, so hell with it. The bad news is that the story is hard to take seriously given the whole jokey nature and everybody burbs thing. Doesn't mean it's not entertaining, but I didn't find myself getting sucked in exactly. I hesitate to call this a kids game, but it is kid appropriate, and this would probably be enough for them. But if you're a grown-ass adult who wants to dive deep and get invested, this ain't where you're gonna find it. What you do get is a bunch of puzzles to solve in fairly light-hearted and yet atmospherically dark surroundings. I'll head back into that in a bit, but I should talk about the controls first. So how do you make Gallo solve all these bird crimes? A pretty standard 2-button interface, that's how. Left click to do, right click to look. And whilst the item description is down the bottom, far away from the item you're actually hovering over, you do get icons to indicate which kind of action each of your clicks will perform. A very friendly feature, I think. You can spend the entire game ignoring it and seeing where your left clicks take you, that works fine. But if you're at all worried about the action Gallo might attempt, you can get some extra information to put your mind at ease. Not that there's much to worry about, I couldn't see anything close to a game over scenario in there. Really earning that completely imaginary PG-13 rating I gave the game. Well done there. Clicks alone won't do it however, which is where your inventory comes in. Popping out from the top of the screen and you click items to select them rather than having to drag them to their intended targets, thanks for that. And there's Gallo Sense, which marks all interactive objects in the area, which stays there for as long as you hold down the spacebar. Again, thanks for that. And going for the thank you hat trick, you have a diary which keeps track of your current goal, which is a little on the vague side. It's a very general statement of the goal rather than the minutiae, but it's fine. Gives you the little reminder you might need if you're forgetful or put the game down for a while. Thankfully, the actual hat trick comes in the form of double click to warp through exits. Yay. The biggest shock I found was that this uses Adventure Game Studio, because I am not at all used to AGS games looking this way. See, when your go-to examples are the likes of the Blackwell series, you tend to think of AGS games as having that low-res, high-colour aesthetic, which is not how this game looks at all. Granted, you get some aliasing if you play in less than 1080p, but you really need to go looking for that, and it didn't affect my enjoyment even after I noticed. That said, I'm wondering why an AGS game doesn't let you use the number keys to select dialogue options. I thought that was the default with that engine. Now back to that character and the world that character is in. Like I said before, everything is played straight. Gallo is a grumpy, self-serving lone wolf detective with a cactus sidekick named Thorn and hundreds of rules.
Rule number 1 of Gallo. Rule number 304 of Gallo. Rule number 17 of Gallo. Don't throw. Damn, what was rule number 17?
But it's played completely straight. Some of the voice actors might ham it up a little, but never too far to make them feel overly cartoony or that they don't belong in this universe. With the era-appropriate soundtrack thrown on top of that, it'll set the mood pretty well. I know I said it was hard for me to take the story seriously, but that doesn't mean you can't set the tone right, and they do. You still feel like that trenchcoat wearing, gruff talking badass detective, even when you're asking your cactus how to solve the case, or when you're dealing with the candy shop owner who is head over claws for Gallo, but of course he can't get involved with anyone else, not in his line of work, not with the life he leads. Then she gets mad at him for literally talking to another woman once, except when you examine her sweets and it plays some older dialogue they forgot to switch out after the woman talking incident. She's not portrayed as the most logical of individuals. Anyway, you may not have to buy into this world to enjoy it, but you have to accept that every character here does. Not that there isn't a good set of puzzles to tide you over, and those fall into one of 4 categories. Virgin on the easy side, just right, a bit too convoluted for their own good, and there's one puzzle where you swap around jugs of drinks with no indication of what will happen when you click on any of them. I'm not a fan of that last one, in case you couldn't tell, but it's very much in the minority. And for my token nitpick of the episode, the main menu makes you hover over the options to find out which is which. That slightly annoys me. Good, that's that out of the way. I don't know that I really have much else to say on this one. It's quite fun. A good-natured, light-hearted detective story that anyone can play, at least anyone who doesn't have a fear of cartoon birds. For the quality of presentation and the 5 hours or so it took me to finish, I'd say the price is right too, about £12 at the time of writing, which may be getting up there in terms of the cost of adventure games, but I'd say it's still worth it, and if that's still too much for you, for whatever reason, you could wait for a sale to pick it up. If you want a well-made adventure game that throws back to the slightly sillier era of the genre, here it is. Hey there, thanks for watching to the end. Feel free to let me know how I did with a like, a dislike, a comment, or by sharing this with a friend. And if you feel like my work is worth a few dollars a month, I do have a Patreon. Thanks again, and hopefully I'll see you back here soon.